Welcome everybody to the Masters of Real Estate. Today we're going to talk about the number one strategy you need to know to raise all the capital for your deals. And it's something a little bit unknown that most people don't fully understand. And it comes down to having the right relationships and being able to develop them with this one strategy. So we're going to talk about that one strategy. We're going to talk about how Raise Masters and groups like that help be able to train fundraisers to be able to develop those capital raising skill sets, the underlying capital raise structures that go with that, along with the fund to funds model, and really dive deep. And today I have Adam Carswell, a good friend of mine. I'll say, fellow anarchist, and I joined the call like this basically to mess with you, buddy, a little bit, just because we enjoy the whole anarchy, talk and things like that. So, and we're both fathers now, and I'm proud of you that, what is this, the second one now? Is that right?
Yeah, had to catch up to you. So
yes, now you feel my pain of having zero time and, you can't just take a break while one watches one kid. You got to watch the other one now. So thanks for joining us, man. I appreciate it. Give us a little bit of a background on yourself and what you do right now, your previous experience, and, kind of a little about you personally, man.
Absolutely. Great to be here. I love, that we're doing this interview on Riverside as well as a fellow podcaster. I really like this platform. For anyone listening right now who is thinking about podcasting, I found this to be one of the best tools to recommend to podcasters. So I don't know if that's actually the direction we're going to go with our conversation today, Matt, but just thinking about it, I love Riverside. So Adam Carswell, born and raised in Cleveland, Ohio, went to college in Western Pennsylvania, kind of Pittsburgh area, studied broadcast communications there, got in the Hall of Fame for track and field and basketball, inducted in 2022. That was a lot of fun. After school, moved to Belize, Central America, to get my master's and pursue a future and career in coaching, college basketball coaching to be specific. Had a lot of connections in the NCAA system, thought that was the direction I wanted to go. And after a few years went by, I started to uncover that, I really liked basketball. I didn't love it. There's some guys I was in the game with who just led hoops 24/7. And I'll never forget, I was a part of Coach Shaka Smart, who's the head coach of Marquette right now. I was kind of in his ecosystem.
Nice.
When he was at VCU, which, by the way, that's cool for any college basketball fans out there too. I just look back at it. There's been a number of upsets, I feel like, the last 15 years or so, but 2011, I feel like, was the first year that like a team that was ranked lower than a 10 seed made the Final Four, and that was them. It was like VCU Rams Final Four.
Nice.
So it was cool to observe that energy and be learning from them. But people would say, Coach Smart, what's your secret? How is your team always so good? And he's like, just go ask our strength and conditioning coach, Coach Roos. He'll tell you. And he's like, well, plain and simple, our players are on campus 50 out of 52 weeks of the year. And I was like,
wow,
damn. Okay. I mean,
a lot of commitment right there.
Yeah.
Right.
Maybe Coach Smart's there, 48 out of 52 weeks of the year. But I'm like, dude, I like to do other stuff with my life. So pivoted, weirdly enough, found a job with the Fortune 500 company. So it's kind of like, all right, well, you want to have a free life. Why would you go do that? But I did, and started working my way up the ladder, and quickly realized that, there's still a limit or a ceiling there. And I knew that the richest people in the world, for the most part, were either made their money in tech or real estate. And coincidentally, a friend of mine had recommended Rich Dad Poor Dad to me at the time. So I'm like, let me check this out. Read it twice, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to get my real estate license. I have no idea what I'm doing, but I'm going to go get it. Got it. Quit my job. One of the greatest days of my life, especially as an anarchist, true freedom. But then what you also realize, especially for me at a young age, is like, well, you have so much time on your hands that if you don't have someone guiding you, it could be a slippery slope. And, now that I'm a dad, you look back at all the free time that you once had, you're like, what was I doing? But
yes.
Thankfully, through that whole journey, I did go down enough rabbit holes, especially on YouTube. And by the way, if you're watching on YouTube right now, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. But went down enough YouTube rabbit holes to find Hunter Thompson, who connected us. And he was on Jeff Berwick's podcast. And so Hunter, awesome. I think, jokes that out of that interview, which probably had at least 30,000 downloads or plays, he was like, dude, you're the only one who reached out, actually. It was probably a little too white collar for Berwick's audience,
But you're not allowed to say Berwick. We might get shut down immediately. Saying the name now, but yeah, he's one of the key anarchists out there, I'll say. So
that is true. It's true. So that's really where a rabbit hole that I continue to go down. Eventually found Hunter. Hunter, who, for anyone who's not familiar with him, he's probably raised a little over 100 million at this point in his career. And at the time he had raised about 30 million. At the time when I met Hunter, actually, you were probably like, not that you aren't a massive mentor and influence in his life right now, but like, I know you're probably someone he looked up to even more back when I first met him. And just been cool to go on this journey with him, with our mastermind in particular, Raise Masters, and maybe even we'll talk a little bit about Capital Collective today. But those are our two masterminds, coaching programs, whatever we call it, and really been surrounded by the world of raising capital for the last 6 years now.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, and I still am adamant to this day that I will beat you at basketball, especially now with your bum knee and stuff.
Now's your chance.
I got that Mamba mentality, and everything. So I've actually had Kobe's card on my desk every day for like the last 20 years, just because, business gets hard. You got to have that Mamba mentality and focus, and just say, hey, forget it. I'm not going to let this pain stop me. I'm going to keep pushing forward no matter what, and like keep driving. That mentality is like what you really need in real estate, in capital raising, is you got to be able to stick and move with the punches there and to come at you. You know what I mean? And you'd have to know that they're going to come, right? So it comes down to that aspect of things. And that's what I really, appreciated about your group and stuff. That really leads us to that number one strategy to be able to raise capital that I found. And I've been doing this for 18, 20 years now, fully raising capital for my deals, raising capital for big projects on multifamily, on mobile home parks, on single family lending, all different types of stuff. Then I haven't found a better strategy to learn how to raise capital than going to mastermind events just like Raise Masters and Capital Collective that give you the relationships that you really need. Because look at it from a logical CPA standpoint, okay? The math, right? If I need to raise $50 million from private investors, or if that's what my goal is, to focus on raising $50 million, I don't care if you're starting off with $1 million project. If you think big and you think 10X, right? And you're saying, I need to raise $50 million. And I got to do that at $50,000 a pop or $100,000 a pop from private individual investors, and the number of conversations you have with that. Yes, that's important to do that, develop those relationships. But when you can go out and find other capital raise partners and other people with databases and other capital raise people that are in your community nonstop, the leverage that you get off of utilizing their databases, off creating friendships, teaching them how to raise capital is insane. Like, it's unbelievable. We actually just brought in commitments of over $40 million in a few months from that exact strategy that we learned from Raise Masters and Capital Collective. We've actually raised over $200 million now. And that was the fastest we've ever raised, like $40 million via these types of projects. So it's really exciting when you see the benefits that can, what you can get from these types of communities. Can you talk a little bit about, Raise Masters and Capital Collective and, what the benefits are? And I got my own feedback. I actually am a member of both because I figured the value. And trust me, Hunter, that is, the mastermind behind Raise Masters and Capital Collective. And I'll say with you, Adam, because you've known him before that, we're, right hand with him, working with him the whole time, this entire time too. I hate paying this dude money. We are poker buddies. Like, I do not want to pay him money at all. And I've found the value in it every year, to be in it for 3 years because of what value it's actually brought to me. So I want to have you explain, a little bit about like Raise Masters and the structure there and the benefits. We can talk about Capital Collective afterwards, but specifically with Raise Masters, because that's where it's started.
Yeah. Thank you for all the kind words. And, that's just what we strive for is that type of unsolicited feedback. So thank you. And it's interesting how, looking back when we first launched Raise Masters, I think the goal for a lot of our clients, and really probably just the industry at large at that time, was how do I raise more capital from LPs? And not that that's not still a question right now, but it's just become more and more overwhelmingly obvious that the fund of funds model is a really smart way to go, especially if you are, an operator and a sponsor looking to just raise more capital faster, quite frankly, the way you're talking about. So now our group has certainly shifted to a much more significant amount of fund of funds managers, or, what we're still seeing. And it's funny because we talk about like the fund of funds model every day, Matt, but there's still so many people in the world of commercial real estate that I feel like haven't even heard the phrase. you say fund to funds to them, they don't even know what you're talking about. And I'd say that's a good thing. I mean, to me, that shows that there's a blue ocean right now. And then someone who I really like what he's doing to really onboard people into having awareness about the fund to funds model and, how they can leverage their networks, even if they are working, a 9 to 5, 40-hour-a-week job is Caleb Edwards is doing a really good job with bringing new people into the game. So Caleb's awesome. I'm sure you had him on the show before. We're moving a little bit away from what is Raise Masters, but generally speaking, if you're looking to raise more capital, again, whether from LPs or with other fund-to-fund managers, or if you are a sponsor, your operator, you're looking to have access to people who can raise for your deals, it's a great place to be, a great place to form partnerships. And then lastly, we've had a lot of great service providers throughout the years join our group too. So if you need like nuanced, hand holding, like specific kind of detailed things when it comes to marketing or CRM or automations or web design, I mean, we're more than happy to share with you everyone that we work with at raisingcapital.com and ASIM Capital. But also there's just been some really solid service providers, attorneys as well that have come through our group. So if you need the support, if you need a CPA to give you a quick answer, our Slack channel is a great place because not only you got Matt, you got like, 3 other CPAs in there. Group, so
right. Yeah, that's, when I look back and I see where I felt the most value was in these groups, and specifically Raise Masters, I feel like does it much better than any of the other groups out there that I've seen or I've been a part of personally. With the curation of the relationship is key, right? Because you're dealing with a ton of people at some of these events, and then other events that are smaller, more intimate. And what Raise Masters does and Capital Collective does is be able to facilitate that networking specifically and that deep dive you get with multiple high-level operators that are involved in these groups. And what's cool is you get a good mix of operators that are doing deals and, that's their primary bread and butter and they're learning ways of raising money for their deals. And then capital partners over here that are fund to funds partners that love to just work with other operators like that in different ways and do the due diligence and find ways of investing with them and, bringing their own relationships via the fund to funds type model to the table. But what's even more important, I think, is learning how to do the scaling aspect of this, right? Because you need to not only learn how to raise the capital yourself from your own LP investors, but also go through and how to bring in capital partners over here. And so you have to have both hats on as the investor, as well as the individual LP investment that's going to come in along with the capital partners and say, how can I benefit both of them? How can I set up my structure so that I can go out to them and be consistent with them all the time, right? And so in Raise Masters, I know there's a significant coursework that's been developed over a period of time that can be utilized to, a LinkedIn strategy to bring in leads, marketing strategies and content strategies, and, how the legal part works when you're investing via syndications and fund-to-fund structures. There's so many little benefits and pieces to this business that need to be in depth and understood. And I feel like there's a very good structure for that, along with the community, and then the quarterly or monthly meetings where the community comes together and be able to actually network and get together and have, direct conversations with each other with the coaching. Like the business coaching for me was great because it's not just about real estate or raising capital. It's about how to run your business and set up the right structures on the marketing side of things to be able to be uniform and have a system instead of doing what I used to do and going to a spreadsheet to just make phone calls and emails manually, right? And now you can actually develop a system for this that really, really works. So what are you seeing as far as the greatest successes and what you think the highest level people as part of the community that are raising the most amount of money, what do you see them doing differently than everybody else out there as far as like their structures and systems?
Well, I got to be honest, you would be one of the members that I know that I would put in that category is like, hey, watch what he's doing.
I learned from you guys. So,
but yeah, I mean, generally speaking, we mentioned Caleb earlier. I love what he's doing. And I think that any company, definitely the energy of the company is going to trickle down from whoever is leading it, whoever's, CEO or whatever founder. And so looking at the energy that you put into your business every day that Caleb puts it, I know it comes from a good place. I know it's high integrity. I know it comes from like wanting to serve others. From a big picture perspective, what works is like, and I don't know how you coach it either, right? But like being a good person, wanting to help people, that's where it starts. And I think because a lot of people have been burned the last just a couple of years, and you look at who's still out here moving forward and who's not, and it's just, to me, it's overwhelmingly good people. So I know that's a very surface level answer. So to give you something that I think is like really compelling right now and working is kind of what we just alluded to, is anything really revolving around the fund to funds model. Mm-hmm. I just see a blue ocean. Whether you're the one raising money from your network, hope maybe you're listening right now and it's the first time you heard of it. Great. Talk to Matt. Just the majority of our industry, I think, just isn't even aware of it yet. So there's, imagine once the market turns around, those who are getting their system set up to either raise capital as a fund of funds manager or as a sponsor or operator to bring on fund managers for their deals, you're going to be in a really good position, I'd say even just for the next couple of years.
Yeah, I think that's one of the best structures and strategies. I do think, like we were saying, hey, going out to the community and adding value without expecting something in return, being a good person and actually caring about other people and just going out there and trying to help. That's how you really develop the most deep dive relationships you possibly can, is just trying to pay it forward and help people as much as possible, and how trust gets built also that way, right? And you get to know people over a period of time, and you get to know that way who the good and the bad operators are out there and who knows what they're doing and doesn't know what they're doing as well. And you start to see that out there. And we saw a lot of turmoil the last few years in the multifamily space and a lot of, losses out there. And so being able to work with the right operators who are going to do the right thing when they get pressed is really, really key. And so, you're in these communities with lots of capital raise partners and lots of operators. You got to do your due diligence and make sure that you are working with those right operators along the way, right? And so you could have this entire system on the capital raise, system set up where you got your sales system dialed in, you have your email sequences, you have your content creation, your distribution out there, your lead capture with your hooks and the proper content out there. You can have all of it dialed in, and then everything gets blown up because the operator that you're working with makes a mistake or the deal doesn't do well, right? And so how do you mitigate those types of issues on the operations side is really, really key. And, we have a 200-point due diligence checklist. You can get that on our website at MatthewOwens.com with one T in Matthew. So MatthewOwens.com. And then you do that in depth and background checks and criminal checks and all different types of things. We're actually even hiring private investigators now for these because someone did that on me. And I was like, that's great. I need to do that immediately going forward, right? It's adding these different tools and learning and getting better on the right operators and understanding, hey, what things actually make a company work, right? It's not just the deal in itself. It's the asset management. It's the accounting function, marketing function, the processes, who has experience on the team in actual operations, not just the capital raise piece of things, right? And so all of that goes into it, and it's really important to dial in your operators in 100% depth, because one deal can really harm you if you're out there trying to raise capital for your deal. So being very conservative and learning from other people, if you're raising the capital for your own deals, how to structure them to protect you and your investors best. What's best practices on reserves, on renovation overages, on, all different types of risks that are out there. You learn a lot from other operators and other capital raisers along the way, which has been one of the biggest values to me of Raise Masters, is learning from other people in the group that I was like, whoa, you have that dialed in. I need to understand that more, and getting a deep dive, have conversations with them about these topics.
Yeah. And, another thing that comes to mind too, I've heard Hunter talk about this several times, but, never be ashamed or afraid to baby step your way into a relationship too. I think we've had clients who I know they've come to us like, all right, I'm going to bring this person on. I'm nervous bringing them on as a partner. We're going to do this, we're going to do this forever because we're partners now. And it's like, there's ways you could structure that where you're both happy and, like the next 90 days are going to be like, well, we'll see how things pan out. And so, to make sure you find the right operator to sponsor with, to invest with, just, I think being able to, realize that you don't have to go all in right at the beginning. You could take your time. In fact, that's the best way to do it. So you mentioned, what do you call it? A PI. Someone did a
private investigator. Yeah.
Private investigator. That's actually funny. I haven't heard that before. I'm just genuinely curious what What happened?
Someone did a background check on me, and then they hired a private investigator, and they said, "Hey, I don't know about this guy. He owns a lot of properties, some entities and stuff." And she's like, "That's exactly what I was hoping to see," but just because I have a lot going on, right? And so I had no idea she was even doing that, and I'm like, "That's great. Who's your person? I want to do that. Everyone I invest with going forward is now." Having a full background check. And I mean, we always did background checks, but we didn't do the private investigator thing. I'm like, well, they're going to catch more stuff than I would catch, right? Even if I'm, being a CPA and detailing it out, they're still going to know a little bit more about how to find things out, right? So
I wasn't
that's
sure
great.
if it was one of those things where you went to CVS one day and someone was sitting there with some sunglasses on, and it's like, yep, there he is.
Yeah, exactly. Someone's following me through they can just do that with AI now. They're just going to track my phone. It's all good, so that's how they know. But
Right.
anyways, so yeah, I mean, look, as far as what, in my opinion, when we're talking about raising capital, like you just said, that fund to funds model that we just talked about is probably one of the most powerful tools you can do. And you have to be very smart about this, about when you're raising capital this way. And a lot of investors go out and they're raising money for their own deal. They're going out to their own individual investors. And they also partner or bring on capital partners, which is typically done in a fund to fund structure so that it's compliant with SEC compliance and things like that. Get your own legal advice. I am not an attorney, but to understand that structure, what's interesting is you have a special purpose vehicle over here and a fund manager. And if they're able to raise, more money, then you can give them better metrics on your deal. So you want to structure your deal as, hey, maybe my Class A members that are under $1 million are able to get this much money as a return, maybe 8-9% preferred return or something along those lines. But if you invest over $1 million, you get a bump up from that. And so maybe they make, a 9 or 10 or 11% preferred return, for example, right? And so that way, the special purpose vehicle gives their investors the same amount that they'd be making by investing directly. And they're able to make that spread minus, accounting costs or, and tax returns and things like that and legal setup fees, right? So you're able to go and make a profit by doing that and investing in via a fund to funds model or a special purpose vehicle. They also call them feeder funds to invest into your fund and get better metrics just because they're bringing more capital to the table. So, if someone invests more money with me, I give them a higher return to incentivize people to invest more, right? And so structuring that deal right so that your fund to funds capital partners can get paid for doing that piece and the administrative aspect associated with that and providing that value to you of more money coming to the table, then you can actually go out and raise capital way faster than all of your individual investors that you should be focused on too as you go out to these other funding sources. We even take it one step further and try to go out and not only do our own investors, but teach our fund to fund capital partners how to raise capital more proficiently. And so we are always learning how do we learn more and how do we learn more. I took the knowledge I learned at Raise Masters and Capital Collective, said, cool, I'm going to teach my partners this to all raise more capital for me over here and be able to add as much value to them as I can, right? And build the trust with them. So it's been highly valuable for me. And I think that model is really the number one secret out there, along with learning the systems to raise capital from LP investors that you learn from events and can get the relationships from events and masterminds like Raise Masters and Capital Collective. I mean, Capital Collective, you literally set it up where we all go to Mexico every year and deep dive relationships with each other. And these people that are going to Mexico and Capital Collective, they're people that have raised, 2, 10, 20, $100 million or more, and are consistently in the business and raising capital for their deals and really high level. So the amount of knowledge you get from that room alone is massive. And I get stuff out of it every time and come with like massive notes where I just, got to implement after that. You get a lot of power from doing that.
Yeah, thank you. And I think that the cool thing about events like the Capital Collective events that you're referring to is just the higher you climb this mountain, the more you start to realize, you're kind of the only person, in your world that's doing this. And so to be surrounded by, 5 to 50 people kind of doing the same thing as you, it's super energizing. And like you said, I think if anything, masterminds are really good at showing us where I mean, what to do, yes, but also where our blind spots are. I think it's just phenomenal from that perspective. And so, yeah, easy for me to sit here and say how Raise Masters and Capital Collective will help you see your capital raising blind spots. But I do think it's true. I've seen it over and over again. And, for anyone thinking about, joining the mastermind, the way I would kind of look at it is it's a constant sounding board of other people who are doing this daily where, even if you're not able to get on the line with Matt, me, Hunter, whoever, immediately you have the Slack channel right there. I mean, I call it the Google of raising capital. You can hop in there and ask any question, like guarantee probably whatever question you have has been answered at some point. And if not, add the fuel to the fire, you will get an answer.
Yeah. And there's hundreds of members to be able to do that. And whether you're actually going out and, joining a group like Raise Masters and Capital Collective to be able to get that, or just doing it on your own networking and relationship development, being around the right people that have the same mindset and also have gone through pain, just like you have as a business owner or as a capital raiser or as an operator that knows, what you're dealing with, and people that have gone through pain have gotten out on the other side and are in a far better, position. Just being around that mindset is so powerful. My brother and I, whenever we go to these types of events, we usually walk away just being so empowered because you realize that energy from everybody else and the positivity from everybody else really rubs off on you. You come back like majorly energized to implement and with the right mindset, because these things recalibrate your mind. It's like reading every day, right? Or like meditating every day, or doing these types of things that are good for yourself and your personal well-being. If you don't do those, you start faltering. And if you're consistent with them all the time, your mindset stays crazy strong and you're able to push through so much adversity. It's like insane. And so that's what I really appreciate is, everybody that's a high level business owner or people that have raised millions of dollars that are part of these groups, they've all been through some shit. They've been through some crap where they've had to deal with and they've gotten out and they're still in it pushing forward. And so that's so inspiring to see that.
And they're the ones that find a way too.
Right.
I keep sitting here. I can't help but continue to use you as an example, but it's no surprise that, there's always a reason or an excuse to not get to like a major event like that. And, we have someone getting married this year around that time, or like kid's birthday. Like we get it. Like that makes sense. But consistently being able to get to in-person events, I think just across the whole scope of business. And as a networker myself, I could just say only from my personal experience, you're right. Like getting to conferences, getting to live events, getting belly to belly, ideally with like more than just one person at a time. And one-on-ones are important at the right time. But, I agree with what you're saying. And again, for anyone listening right now, if you got a conference you've been debating on whether or not you should go to this year, I would say you got to go do it.
If you think about it, a lot of people think in their minds that, hey, these conferences now with online are a waste of time, right? They might think I get way less leads out of, live events, than if I was to do online marketing, push it to my database, push it on social media, get it out there with affiliate relationships and get, 100 people on a Zoom meeting or something that you're developing relationships with. Yes, that's hugely valuable and important, right? But the customer journey typically takes 6 months to 2 years before they actually invest with you from an online meeting or meeting you online or a referral relationship in many instances. Yes, sometimes they're way faster, but you have to nurture that relationship. They have to get to know you. You got to tell them personal stories about who you are as a person, because that's how they build the trust, right? That takes time. And when you go to these live events, you compound that trust building exercise tenfold, because they met you in person. They saw your personal mannerisms. They shook your hand. There's a visual imprint in their mind about it. And there's an immediate follow up. And, if you go out to these events and you drink with them, or, not necessarily that being,
you held my baby.
Yeah. Yes. That's how. It's funny. That's how you got me to join Raise Masters in the beginning. You showed me your baby and said, you got to join us. And trust me, I'm a CPA. I did not want to spend money on this at all. And when I realized the benefits afterwards, I was like, oh man, I got to go every year. This is killing me. I can't believe I'm spending this money every year, but it was absolutely worth it. So every time, and trust me, I'm doing the math on how much capital I raised versus, versus what I was raising previously. And it's just a no brainer every year. So new people, new relationships and stuff like that. But if people want to join Raise Masters or get in touch with you or, understand a little bit more about your anarchist self, how do they get in touch with you, man?
Yeah, easiest way is through LinkedIn, guys. Adam J. Carswell on LinkedIn. Add me there. If you're not a LinkedIn person, you can shoot me an email, adam@raisingcapital.com. But yeah, I'd be happy to answer any questions that came up from this interview. And Matt, thank you for having me on.
No problem. And if anybody wants more that due diligence checklist, go to MatthewOwens.com. We do this on every deal before we invest with somebody. We also have quick analysis tools and master classes on raising capital and things like that. If you want to work with us on any of our deals or, raising capital in different ways or, however we can help, just go ahead and reach out via MatthewOwens.com. We'd be glad to help. Thanks so much, guys. Appreciate it.
Do you want to learn how to create financial freedom in your life through real estate and take your investing business to the next level? If so, you can follow us in one of the following ways. First, you can take one of our free webinars on how to analyze property, how to raise capital for real estate, and how to market and find deals. Three of the key pillars to becoming a successful real estate investor. Number two, you can join us on our mailing list where you'll get tips and tricks on real estate investing directly to your inbox. And number three, you can take our 6-month real estate course that teaches you every aspect of real estate investing you can think of, and more importantly, create financial freedom in your life through real estate investing strategies that I teach. If you want a master's in real estate in 6 months, this course is for you. We're going to go over how to raise money, promissory notes, syndications, fixing and flipping, buy and hold investing, tax and legal structures, self-directed retirement accounts, financial education, how to run a business, how to market and find your deals, and most importantly, how to create that financial freedom in your life so that you can stop trading your time for money and create passive real estate cash flow that you can live off of. If you're interested, go ahead and click on one of the links below, and I look forward to seeing you guys on the other side.